The story begins with Z, a demanding president, and his assistant Yuan Xia, who has to be available at all hours. It's 2 a.m., and just as she's asleep, he calls her to take him out of a club. There, the protagonist pays the bill and gets him out of trouble, but as she leaves, a mysterious man intercepts her and discusses a plan to harm his boss. But thanks to the little princess's intervention, the plan fails, and now she's in his sights. The next day at the office, the protagonist secretly watches her and even records her with his cell phone. He then asks her to read him some documents, just to annoy her. Later, upon learning that she's on a blind date, Z shows up at the parking lot under the guise of taking her. However, on the way, the car's brakes fail. Although he asks her to find a less traveled route, they still end up crashing. But in the end, Z protects her, showing her heroic side. That night, the handsome man takes her home, and although they both escaped unharmed from the accident, Z suspects that her uncle tampered with the car and that everything is related to what happened at the bar. And although she doesn't show it, she begins to fear that if the little princess stays by his side, she'll end up hurt. The next day, the protagonist receives an unexpected email. She's been fired. Furious, she heads to the company and confronts Z, demanding an explanation. The cold and distant man simply gives her a card with payment for her time worked, but just as she's about to leave, she gets dizzy and faints in his arms. So for the first time, the handsome man shows his concern. At the hospital, the doctor tells her everything is fine, but Yuan Shua isn't reassured. Upon reviewing her tests, she discovers the harsh truth. She has pancreatic cancer. Shortly after, she receives an anonymous call warning her not to go to the hotel on December 31st, 2024, to look for Z, because her life is in danger. Angry and resigned, she believes she has nothing to lose. Later, the protagonist arrives at a party where Z is having a carefree time. Desperate, she begs him for money to treat her illness. But the hunk, acting like a jerk, throws her into the pool and mocks her when she confesses she has cancer. To top it all off, he demands that she drink an entire bottle of wine if she wants the money. How cruel. While Yuan Shua drinks in the hope of getting help, Z reminisces about important moments with her. It turns out it was all a setup to protect her from her uncle. But in the attempt, he's behaving like a true monster. When she finishes the bottle in the hope of receiving the money, he bluntly tells her he won't give her anything. That's when the protagonist explodes, slaps him, and scolds everyone present for making fun of those without money. A moment of pure dignity and strength. Later, while on her way, Z calls the doctor to ask him to look after Yuan Shua, but in the middle of the call, she realizes she's being followed. Fed up with being stalked, she decides to confront him once and for all. So she stops the car and, without thinking twice, hits her assistant to snatch the phone. Just as she suspected, Z's uncle is behind it all. Even worse, he reveals that her father's death was no accident, and if she wants to know more, she should wait for him at the club tomorrow. Meanwhile, the protagonist, still in the hospital, receives another call from the same mysterious man. This time, he tells her that she's not really sick and that the real report is in Dr. Xiannom's possession. Confused and upset, Yuan Shua meets with the doctor to demand an explanation, but he tells her it was all for her own good. Just then, she receives a message from Z, which the doctor shows her, to prove that he's not as bad as he seems. That night, filled with doubts, the little princess decides to go to the deliing club, intrigued by everything she's heard. But upon arriving, she sees some men forcibly dragging the handsome man into a van. Without thinking twice, she runs to help him, and suddenly a fight breaks out. Luckily, a friend of Z's appears and manages to help them escape in time. After the intense situation, Shiki sits down with Yuan Shua and tells him the whole truth about his uncle and the dangers they've been facing. She is stunned to learn how twisted this man is. At that moment, the man opens up completely. He confesses that everything he did to protect her is because he's liked her for a long time. Although our girl doesn't completely believe him, Shiki is being more honest than ever. He's bottled up his feelings for her for so long, he can't hide them anymore. The next day, the protagonists prepare to go to the office, ready to face the enemy. Meanwhile, Shiki's uncle is already at the company, confident and happy, believing that Shiki won't show up. But his plan collapses when a hunk triumphantly enters and publicly exposes him. To top it all off, Shiki announces that Yuan Shua will be reinstated, this time as public relations director. Obviously, her uncle doesn't leave without issuing a threat. He promises to finish him off. Later, Shiki meets with the little princess, who tells him she doesn't intend to accept the new position. He sincerely apologizes for everything he's done, and she, now calmer, accepts his apologies. Before leaving, she mentions the situation with her uncle and asks him to be careful. That same night, Yuan Shua receives another mysterious call, but this time he hears his aunt's voice on the other end. That's when he begins to believe everything he's been told is true. The person behind the calls claims to be from the future, the year 2025. And the most shocking thing is that it's Shiki himself, though she doesn't know it yet. Before the call ends, he gives her 2 warnings. Don't quit your job at Mu Company, and don't leave Shiki's side, no matter what. The next day, determined to follow her mysterious informant's advice, the protagonist returns to work with the handsome man who, of course, can't hide his joy at having her back. Future Shiki begins to remember everything they've been through in the past and discovers he has a lottery ticket that Yuan Shua had bought for her. This fills him with joy because he realizes she believed him and that, little by little, fate is beginning to change. Meanwhile, in the present, Shiki bumps into Xiling, a rather clingy girl who is obsessed with him. Desperate to get rid of her, Yuan Shua shows up just in time and without hesitation acts as his girlfriend. She introduces herself as such, and to keep up the facade, they end up accepting an invitation to Xiling's welcoming party. So now, the couple's drama must continue. Later, the leads go out together to choose a dress for the party. After several fittings, they find the perfect one, and the lead looks truly spectacular. At the party, they give Xiling the gift, but whispers quickly begin to spread. People start saying that Shiki is dating his assistant, and some even call her a gold digger. But he, like a true gentleman, listens to the rumors and doesn't stay silent. He publicly defends her, leaving everyone else in silence. Later, still at the hotel, Yuan Shua communicates again with the Shiki from the future. She asks him if something bad is about to happen. It also warns you that there's danger near the lake in December. Upon learning that she's at the hotel, he becomes agitated and demands that she leave immediately and not tell anyone about the phone, as her death could be related to it. Suddenly, Shiki's uncle appears. Yuan Shua tries to warn the handsome man, but can't get through to him. She goes out to find him, but is kidnapped instead. Her uncle sedates her and throws her into a pool, but luckily Shiki arrives just in time to save her. Future Shiki is happy because she managed to save Yuan Shua, but that joy is suddenly shattered. His friends tell him she's dead. She was murdered in March at her home. Shiki, confused, recalls the incident and doesn't understand why the date of her death changed. Meanwhile, in the present, the protagonist is recovering in the hospital. Everything is fine. It was just a scare. She claims she saw Shiki's uncle and is convinced he was the one who attacked her. Later, the handsome man takes her back home, but upon arriving, she receives a call from Xiang, who tells her that a friend of Yuan Shua's called him, worried. They saw a suspicious man lurking around their house, so with no other option, the little princess ends up moving into Shiki's house for her safety. That night they have dinner together, but the atmosphere is a bit tense. Shiki can't stop thinking about her when they were young. He remembers her with tenderness and nostalgia. Finally, Yuan Shua breaks the silence and sweetly thanks him for everything he's doing for her. The next day, Yuan Shua decides she's not going to be a victim again. She's determined to learn how to swim and defend herself, so she starts her swimming lessons with all the energy in the world. Later, the protagonists have a couple photo shoot and they look amazing together. At night, Xiling appears in his room with food, and as part of their act as a loving couple, Shiki and Yuan Shua continue to pretend to be in love. But when they close the door, they are so close that Shiki can't help but feel somewhat uncomfortable. The problem is that Shilling doesn't give up easily and continues to knock on the door insistently. The protagonist, fed up with these attempts to interrupt them, decides to take drastic measures. She pinches her neck to simulate a love mark and calls the hotel reception to ask for contraceptives. And so they finally manage to sleep in peace. Days later, Yuan Shua receives another call from Shiki from the future. She asks him who he really is, and the place he mentions reminds her of the older brother who looked after her when she was younger. She feels that this person was very important in her life, although she doesn't yet realize that this young protector is Shiki himself. In the future, the handsome man receives a picture of himself and Yuan Shua. Upon seeing her, he feels a mixture of jealousy and sadness for his version of the past. He reproaches himself for having been so focused on discovering his father's murderer that he neglected his beloved and only saw her again when it was too late, as he was leaving the morgue. That's why he continues to intervene in the past, feeling guilty and determined to change such a tragic fate. The next day, the protagonist finds some soup on her desk that she used to eat with her older brother. Just then, Pei Shin, her friend and colleague, arrives, and she assumes he was the one who left her the soup. Convinced, she begins to believe that Pei Shin is the older brother who looked after her when she was a child. Later, our girl feels a little jealous when she sees the hunk leaving with Xiling, so she decides to fight back. She tells him that she has a childhood crush who works at the same company and that she hopes to see him again soon. Shichi is thrilled when he hears this, believing that she has finally remembered him, but his happiness vanishes in a second when she mentions Pei Shin. Later, in her room, our girl listens to a recording where Shichi teaches her parrot to call her Yuan, her pet name. It's at that moment that everything clicks. The older brother she always remembered so much was Shichi. After that, the protagonists go out to the market together and buy a lot of food, enjoying a happy, everyday moment, but the peace doesn't last long. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a man bumps into them, and to their surprise, it's Uncle Zhou. What's this man up to now? In the future, our hunk visits Yuan's grave while still in contact with her by phone. During the call, she asks him why he tricked her by pretending to be her older brother. His voice heavy with guilt, he confesses that he feels responsible for her death and begs for forgiveness. But just as the call ends, Shichi begins to have blurred memories, and suddenly the grave disappears. He rushes to the hospital where the doctor gives him shocking news. His wife might never wake up, but instead of collapsing, our heartthrob cries with joy, because this time she's still alive. Meanwhile, in the present, a mysterious man appears at the place where Yuan Shua and his colleagues are staying. Luckily, Pei Shin detects him in time and, together with others, manages to neutralize him before he can do any harm. Now Yuan Shua is discreetly watched by Shichi, who is waiting for Uncle Zhou to try something, and sure enough, when he appears to attack, the handsome man intervenes. It was all a perfectly orchestrated plan, and the guy fell right into the trap. After that intense scene, the protagonists head into the forest surrounded by fireflies that illuminate the environment with a magical air. Amidst this romantic atmosphere, Shichi opens up completely. He confesses to Yuan Shua that she was his light and his hope in his darkest moments, and tells her that he truly likes her. She, moved by his words, kisses him and tells him how much his company meant to her. Just like with the boy from her childhood, she always felt protected with Shichi. Finally, she confesses that she likes him too, and they both merge in a kiss filled with love, emotion, and fulfilled destiny. In the future, Shichi continues to care for his wife in the hospital when he receives a call with devastating news. Pei Shin was the one who caused Yuan Shua's accident. Furthermore, she begins to notice that her interventions in the past have caused significant changes in the timeline, so this time she decides to do something different, asking Yuan Shua to pass the phone to her past version. In the present, she is protesting in the parking lot talking to Shichi from the future, who tells her that she is no longer dead, but in a coma, and that they have finally discovered the culprit. Just then, Pei Shin tries to run her over, but Shichi arrives in time and stops him. And upon seeing the phone Yuan Shua is holding, an invention of Shichi's father, he asks who she was talking to. She comes clean and tells him she was talking to himself, but from the future, and furthermore reveals that the murderer is Pei Shen. Later at the company, the protagonists come up with a plan to catch the traitor. They leave him the double-space phone as bait, and as expected, Pei Shen takes it and gives it to Shikuan, an old friend of Shichi's father. It turns out that Shikuan had talked to his father about the phone, but since his intentions were not good, Shichi's father distanced himself from him. Finally, our protagonists put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Shikuan and Uncle Shou have been complicit in all of Yuan Shua's suffering and are also behind the death of Shichi's father. Finally, in the future, our protagonist dies again. This loss leaves Shichi completely devastated. Desperate and not knowing what else to do, his friend Xian Nan intervenes, contacts Shichi from his past, and tells him the whole truth. He tells him that they've tried everything to save Yuan Shua, but fate always ends the same way, with his death. He also reveals that his father's real killer was Shikuan, and that he'll soon use the protagonist as a threat to get his hands on the phone. From now on, her destiny is in her hands. Armed with all this information, the handsome man makes a painful decision. He tells Yuan Shua what he said to his friend and asks her to go abroad, to Paris, to study communications, something she's always dreamed of. Although sad, she understands his concern and accepts the idea with a smile. They hug each other tightly, clinging to the hope that this time, everything will be different. The next day, the lovebirds go into a phone booth to record a love letter that will be delivered a year from now. Each one opens their hearts with beautiful and profound words, an emotional farewell that touches the soul. At night, in an intimate and romantic setting, our love interest confesses to Yuan Shua how much he loves her. They kiss passionately and spend the night together, sharing that moment as if it were their last. The next day, our girl leaves for the airport, and Shiki, with a heavy heart, says goodbye to her. As soon as he leaves, he begins to execute his plan to confront fate, determined to break the cycle and protect her, no matter the cost. In the year 2025, our girl listens to the love letter Shiki left for her. Every word touches her deeply, and as she plays it, she can't help but weep bitterly. Then he goes to her grave to leave her flowers. This time, fate has changed. She's alive, but he died protecting her. This outcome was as sad as it was unexpected. Later in the past, Shiki meets with Shikuan, who demands the code to activate the phone. The handsome man refuses, and in response, Shikuan threatens to harm Yuan Shua. With no other option, the handsome man pretends to give him the code, but it's all a ruse. As he writes, his friend hacks into the device to extract all the information. How clever. Shortly after, Shikuan receives a call informing him that his accounts have been compromised and that the police are looking for him. Enraged, he breaks out into a violent fight. Although Shiki tries to defend himself, he's outnumbered, severely injured, and trapped inside. Luckily, our protagonist and her friends are already searching for him. Shiki manages to communicate with her and tell her where he is, but loses consciousness before they can get there. Despite the critical moment, they manage to find him in time, and the handsome man is saved. In the following days, Shiki, Yuan Shua, and their friends continue to investigate Pei Shen's whereabouts, but to no avail. In the village, no one seems to know him, as if he had vanished. The only thing they discover is that he and Shi Ling had a relationship in the past. One day, a mysterious man appears, and believing him to be Pei Shen, everyone follows him. Except for Yuan Shua, who stays at home. But by the time the group realizes their mistake, it's too late. The protagonist has disappeared. The next day, while Pei Shen is on the phone, Yuan Shua tries to escape. The chase ends on a cliff, where she tries to convince him not to hurt her. Just then, Shiki appears, and tensions escalate. But luckily, before tragedy strikes, Pei Shen vanishes, leaving Yuan Shua safe. On the verge of collapse, our protagonist opens up, reflecting on her life and everything she's never told Shiki. In that fragile moment, she confesses that she wants to always be by his side, and when she loves him, our heartthrob, moved, responds with a tender kiss, sealing the moment with emotion and pure love. After their romantic moment, the protagonists receive a call from the future. Thanks to their discovery of patience, fate has changed, and everything seems to be going well. They no longer need the phone, so our protagonist suggests destroying it. After hanging up, the couple decides to go for a walk. The handsome man, happy to have his beloved back, wants to make up for lost time. He gives her a beautiful necklace, and they have a photo shoot dressed as a bride and groom. They look adorable. The next day, he's teaching Yuan Shua how to drive, but a car driven by Sherlin suddenly appears and runs them over. Returning to 2024, the protagonists visit Sherlin, who wants to say goodbye before leaving on her trip. During the conversation, Yuan Shua answers a call from Shiki from the future, who warns him not to destroy the phone, as her death could be related to Sherlin. Our girlfriend remembers the cliff incident and becomes more suspicious. Our boyfriend even jokes that he regrets teaching her how to drive because she's clearly no good at it. Then, in front of Sherlin, our girlfriend pretends to have damaged the phone and hands it over. Later, she reunites with her friends, and they discover a bracelet Sherlin gave Shiki for her birthday. Our girl realizes she made the bracelet herself and gave it to Shiki's father, so everything becomes even more suspicious. The group's doctor explains that a person with antisocial personality disorder can eliminate those around their loved one to keep them all to themselves. So they conclude that Sherlin might have been the cause of Shiki's father's death. The next day, they meet again and come up with a plan. Yuan Shua offers to take the risk to obtain evidence against Sherlin, but he needs Shiki's help from the future. Just then, they receive a call, and she explains the plan to him. Although he's afraid, she convinces him. He must call Sherlin and tell her how Yuan Shua's death will unfold. And just as they expected, Sherlin steals the phone. Then Shiki from the future tells her his version. Fate hasn't changed. The only difference is that Yuan Shua's death will no longer occur during Sherlin's engagement, but rather during his wedding to Shiki. And the most chilling thing is that Sherlin thinks it's perfect. In fact, she loved the idea of getting rid of Yuan Shua on their wedding day. Later, the heartthrob and his friends prepare a beautiful surprise to propose to Yuan Shua. He looks elegant and nervous, ready to propose. But before he can do so, our protagonist beats him to it and asks him to marry her. Excited, Shiki takes out his ring, kneels, and proposes to her as well. The moment is magical and full of tenderness. She accepts, and they seal the deal with a beautiful kiss. The next day, the big moment arrives, the wedding. While Shiki waits for his beloved, Sherlin appears with a bouquet of flowers. She mockingly tells him that the wedding will be hers, not his and Yuan Shua's. Then she coldly blurts out that his fiancé must be dying. Furious, the handsome man demands to know why she killed his father. Sherlin confesses that it was all over the phone and that the death was an accident. Her father took the blame and sent her abroad, keeping her away from Shiki during her darkest moments. Meanwhile, our girl wakes up and realizes everything is happening as planned. Her friend informs her that Sherlin is at the wedding, which fills her with fear. Fearing for Shiki's life, he runs off to find him. Our love interest continues to confront Sherlin and realizes that she didn't want to eliminate Yuan Shua, but him. Broken by the rejection and her obsession, Sherlin pulls out a knife and attacks him. But just then, Yuan Shua appears and takes the stab for him. She falls into his arms, mortally wounded, and before closing her eyes, asks him to destroy the cell phone because she doesn't want him to continue suffering from remembering her. Shiki is devastated by Yuan Shua's death. One day, he finds the letter she had recorded for him and, upon hearing her voice, bursts into tears. He visits her grave and, still holding the phone, decides to call her. To his surprise, she answers, believing she's talking to her older brother. Shiki asks her to leave the phone in the basement and go abroad, as her life is in danger, but the call is cut off before they can say anything else. Our protagonist recalls that after that call, Yuan Shua resigned, went to Paris, and left him evidence against his uncle. When he regained consciousness, he realized the grave had disappeared, fate had changed, and she was no longer dead. But as Yuan Shua's belongings disappeared from his house, he cried inconsolably over her absence. The next day, he finds a letter and the phone in his old house. Although he dreams of seeing her again, he decides to throw the phone into the sea. He no longer needs further proof. The present has changed everything. A year later, Yuan Shua returns to China with no clear memories of what happened, but with the feeling that something is missing. But upon welcoming a new guest, she reunites with Shiki, who calls her by her nickname and gives her a gift. She recognizes him instantly, and in a heartfelt moment, he confesses his love for her, and they embrace. But the story doesn't end there, friends. Shiki wakes up from a nightmare and, upon seeing his wife, realizes it was all a bad dream. She calms him with a kiss, reminding him that everything is real now because the present is present and she is alive by his side, just as she always wanted. This drama wasn't just a love story. It was a journey of madness, tears, twists in time, and moments that break and heal your soul at the same time.